Madam Clerk, are we ready? All right, good evening. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for October 16th, 2025. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. The commissioners who are present this evening are at City Hall. We may have a participant on Zoom, but he can join us if and when he arrives. We also have staff from the city attorney and the city clerk's office, as well as the city's planning department. If you are joining us on Zoom this evening, we can see that you are here. You may observe the meeting, however, your ability to be seen on screen and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you will be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note, we cannot take questions until the public testimony portion of the meeting. If you have a process question during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org and they will reply as quickly as possible. If you simply want to watch the meeting, we encourage you to watch this streaming on the city's YouTube channel. You can access it at meridiancity.org/live. With that, let's begin with roll call. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Garrett,
Here.
Commissioner Stoll,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Perot,
Here.
Chairperson Lorcher.
Here. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. There are no changes to tonight's agenda, but please note that Borough Village has requested a continuance. So if there's anyone here tonight to testify on this application, we will not be taking public testimony. Could I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second to adopt tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is to approve the minutes of the October 2nd Planning and Zoning meeting. Could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I would briefly like to explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings and how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and our unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case and respond to staff comments, and they will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called only once during public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up on our website in advance to testify. You may come to the microphones in chambers or you'll be unmuted on Zoom. Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you have previously sent pictures or a presentation for the meeting, it will be displayed on screen and our clerk will help you run the presentation. If you have established that you're speaking on behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who wish to testify. If you wish to speak on a topic, you may come forward in chambers. If on Zoom, you may press the raise hand button. Or if you're only listening on the phone, press *9 and wait for your name to be called. If you're listening on multiple devices, such as a computer and a telephone, please be sure to mute those extra devices so we don't experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you are finished, if the commission does not have questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to respond. When the applicant has finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing, and the commissioners will have an opportunity to discuss and hopefully make a final decision or recommendations to City Council. With that in mind, we're going to open item number 2, item number 2025-0037 for Borough Village has requested a continuance. Madam Clerk, do we have a suggested date for that continuance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have November 20th.
May I get a motion to continue the application?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith,
I move to continue item number H-2025-0037 to the date of November 20th.
Second.
it's been moved and second to continue Borough Village for November 20th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 on the agenda, 2025-0043, is for a conditional use permit for the Ada County Sheriff to operate a training office and training center. And we will begin with the staff report. Nick?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The next item on the agenda is the conditional use permit for the Ada County Sheriff's Office Training Center. So the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a quasi-public use in the form of the Ada County Sheriff's Office Training Center in 3 existing industrial tenant spaces on 11.13 acres of land in the IL zoning district. The site is located at 2568 East Lanark Street, and as shown on the screen, the existing zoning is IL or light industrial, and the flume designation is industrial. The purpose of the industrial designation is to allow for a range of uses that support industrial and commercial activities. Industrial uses may include warehouses, storage units, light manufacturing, flex space, and some ancillary office uses. So this is the existing site plan as it currently sits, and the Ada County Sheriff's Office intends to use this space for offices, training space, and a gym. The narrative indicates that the addition of this space would allow for additional training to keep up with demand for new recruits and continued training. While the proposed use is not what is envisioned in the IL zoning district, staff believes that it provides an expansion of a vital service to the community near a major state highway. That a minimum of one off-street parking space is required per 2,000 square feet of gross floor area. The applicant is proposing to exceed this parking requirement by adding 77 new parking stalls to the property, and they will be pulling a permit for this in the next stages if approved tonight. And then access is existing off of East Lanark Street and Industrial Collector. There are currently 6 curb cuts that lead to access to different parts of the building. The applicant is not proposing to change any of these access points that were approved back in 2006. So staff is recommending approval of this application, has not received any written testimony, and I'll stand for your questions.
Is the applicant here? Would you like to come up and speak? Okay. Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Good evening. My name is Matt Navist. I'm a lieutenant for the Ada County Sheriff's Office. Would you like my home address or my work address?
Your home address.
My
Oh,
home
no, you know what? Let's stay with work. We don't need to let everybody know where you
Work address would be 7200 Barrister Drive in Boise.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Anything else you'd like to add to Nick's presentation?
That's it. No, he did a fine job.
Okay, and so this is a new training center for your staff?
Correct. Not only for our academies, we hold 3 academies a year, but also for our in-service training to continuing education for our deputies and professional staff.
And how can we use the terms quasi training or whatever it was, quasi, does that mean like the public can go, or is it because that everybody is a part of the sale or the staff?
Madam Chair, it's a good question. So yes, in our code, really, police stations, those type of precincts, those type of things do fall under what we call a quasi-public or public space, because technically it is a public space, but there is restrictions to that that can be required by the Ada County Sheriff. So.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the Sheriff's Department?
Chair?
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, thank you. Just out of honestly personal curiosity, curious. So this says the actual space is kind of talked about as office and training space and gym. And I'm curious what kind, like envisioning the training space. Is there any outdoor training envisioned? Is there anything around that, or what kind of training are we talking about?
So majority of the training that will be done at the site will be classroom, and then also mat room, so defensive tactics, arrest and control techniques. And then we also have a modular wall system that we can create different floor plans with, that we can teach like building search and interior building search. We can also use the parking lot to conduct like traffic stop scenarios and that type of training.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody who would wish to testify on this application?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have Michaela Rowland.
Michaela, did you want to comment on the Ada County Sheriff? No? Okay.
Madam Chair, no one else has signed up.
And you've concluded your comments, so you're good before we close the public hearing? Okay. May I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for the Ada County Sheriff's Training Center. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think anytime we offer or make available space for law enforcement to be able to improve their job and work with the public is always a welcome thing, especially here in the city of Meridian. So, you know, it seems like a good spot. There's plenty of room. They're taking 3 different retail spaces to, like he said, to be able to modulate it to offer different kinds of scenarios. I don't see any challenges with this application. Anybody else would like to comment?
Nope.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
after considering all staff and applicant and public testimony, I move to recommend approval. Sorry, no, I moved
It's
to,
a CUP.
yeah, sorry.
You're good.
Start that one over. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H-2025-0043 as presented in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve file number H 2025-0043. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, moving right along. Item 4 on the agenda is application number H 2025-0035 for a comprehensive plan map amendment, a rezone, a development agreement modification, and a conditional use permit for Meridian Lux on McMillan Road. And we will begin with the staff report.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, next item on the agenda is the comprehensive plan map amendment, rezone, conditional use permit, and development agreement modification for Meridian Lux. The applicant requests a comprehensive plan map amendment to change the future land use designation from office to commercial, rezone from LO to the CC zoning district across 5.99 acres of land, a development agreement modification to remove the property from a current DA to create a new DA that includes a new concept plan and elevations, and a conditional use permit for self-service storage facility in the CC zoning district. Site is located at 2350 West McMillan Road. As shown on the screen, the existing zoning is LO, or a limited office designation, and the flume is office. This is the rezone exhibit. So the comprehensive plan defines office land use designation as a low-impact business area. The uses allowed in this typically include professional offices, technology, and resource centers. Ancillary commercial uses may also be considered. The comprehensive plan also defines the commercial land use designations as a full range of uses that serve area residents and visitors. Desired uses include retail, restaurants, personal and professional service, and office uses, as well as appropriate public and quasi-public uses. So this is the original, or the overall original concept plan back from 2003 as a part of the Kelly Creek subdivision. All of the residential out here is depicted, has been constructed, and this was what was contemplated for the site that's in question tonight. Here's a little bit more of a closer image for that. So, I apologize. So it was anticipated to be 37,000 square feet of office space across 10 buildings. So this is what the previous concept plan had envisioned for this property and why it was given the LO zoning back in 2003. So the proposed concept plan, the applicant is proposing 18 commercial multi-tenant units across 4 buildings totaling 24,336 square feet of commercial space on the western portion of the site, and 41 privately owned storage condos or a self-service storage facility across 5 buildings totaling 54,000 square feet on the eastern portion of the site. The applicant has indicated that the primary uses for the commercial buildings is intended to be flex space. However, the CC zoning district does allow other uses in that as well. Due to the proximity to the residential, the existing residential surrounding the property, hours of operation will be restricted from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. for all uses on the site as required in the UDC. In addition, the applicant is proposing to sell the storage portion of the site as individual units, which will require a short plat at a later time if approved. Staff is evaluating the western portion of the site using commercial parking standards and not the flex space parking standards. The commercial parking standards are one space per every 500 square feet of gross floor area, which requires 49 spaces, and the applicant has provided 55, which exceeds that. If it was the flex space standards, it would have been one space per 1,000 square feet instead of 500, which would have only required about 25 spaces, which is why we went with the more restrictive parking in this case, because the users aren't chosen at this time. So while the parking exceeds the minimum, staff is concerned this may not be enough for high-intensity uses. With 18 tenant spaces, that's roughly 3 spaces per tenant, sufficient for low office or retail uses, but inadequate for uses like restaurants, drive-throughs, or indoor recreation. So to help mitigate these concerns, staff recommended restricting the following high-intensity uses within the development: restaurants, drive-throughs, indoor arts, entertainment, and recreation facilities. This approach is intended to enhance the site's long-term viability for ensuring tenants have adequate access for both customers and employees. Access is proposed off of McMillan Road through a single curb cut. This access will require a city council waiver, so city council will be deciding whether to approve that access point or not, because it is to an arterial roadway. With this, they also are proposing the extension of Low Pass as a form of a commercial drive aisle to connect with the access off McMillan Road, which is required and was contemplated in the original concept plan for the development back in 2003. It did show that extending, just not in the same location. The location did change over some of the phases of the residential phases. So ACHD anticipates 77 trips per day for the storage and 55 for the multi-tenant commercial. The total anticipated trip generation is approximately 132 trips per day, which is considered adequate according to ACHD standards. And according to ACHD, McMillan can handle the additional traffic that this would create. The applicant is providing a 25-foot landscape buffer to all existing residential uses. After inspecting the site, staff observed the existing fence on the north boundary of the site is approximately 4 feet in height. Couldn't measure it exactly precisely, but I observed, and it's not a 6-foot fence. It does not appear, and appears to be closer to the 4 foot in height. As a result of this, staff is recommending a 4-foot berm with trees that touch within 5 years of planting on top of the berm. Since the staff report, however, staff did talk with the applicant, and the applicant did propose potentially putting up an 8-foot fence with vegetation meeting the UDC standards instead of the berm. Staff is open to this approach, but would like to hear public testimony tonight and what the commission thinks about potentially changing that condition in the staff report. So staff is recommending approval with conditions, a new development agreement and provisions, and has received written testimony from Laurel Bauer with concerns about increased traffic, safety, noise, parking, and decreased property values. In addition, we received written testimony from Scott Meeks, Ora Cortez with concerns regarding increased traffic, lack of parking within the plan that may spill out into the residential, noise, hours of operation, and if approved, they request a 10-foot sound wall on the north boundary and hours of operation to be restricted to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I will stand for any questions at this time.
I do have a few questions. So the city is suggesting a 4-foot berm with trees on that northern boundary. And is that to keep that 4-foot fence there as well? That's in addition to the 4-foot fence that's already there?
Madam Chair, that is correct.
Okay. And then, but the developer is suggesting an 8-foot fence with no landscaping. Is that correct?
They would still meet the UDC requirements for landscaping for trees that touch within 5 years of planting. Correct. That would still be a requirement.
Okay, so they're suggesting an 8-foot fence
In lieu of the berm.
replace of the 4-foot fence, but still trees to have a interconnecting canopy within 5 years.
Yes, ma'am. That's the
Okay.
conversation we had. Correct.
Okay. Does other commissioners have questions for Nick before we invite the applicant to come forward? All right, would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening, Madam Chair. commissioners. It says I'm Mary Hall, but I'm not. Mary Wall's back there.
Okay.
But I'm going to stand. My name is Natalie Johnson. Address is 2205 Mace Road, Eagle, Idaho, 83616.
All right, thank you.
And I want to stand and first say thanks to Nick. He's been exceptional to work with. So we're really grateful for how that process has gone so far. Much of what I've put in this presentation, Nick has covered, so we'll move through some of these slides quickly. Meridian Lux is the development we're proposing tonight. I stand on behalf of the landowner. Simply a table of contents for commissioners if you decide to go back through this presentation. Our project summary, as Nick stated, this is why I'm standing here tonight. We're requesting a comprehensive plan map amendment from office to commercial. We're looking for a rezone from limited office LO to community business district CC. We're also requesting conditional use permit for the proposed storage and also a development agreement modification. As Nick shared, this is the future land use map. Our project is outlined and highlighted there in yellow, and I wanted to put this on the screen to show the commercial and the office as already designated on this future land use map on both sides of our property. So you can see quite clearly that there is commercial and office already bookending sort of both sides of where we are. What I wish I would have put on this slide or the next slide is actually an aerial view. So you could see that our piece is actually the only undeveloped piece that remains on McMillan here on this stretch. So it will be a beautiful thing to finish up what's been happening there on McMillan. So we're excited. So the proposed change to the future land use map designation will expand options for development here in Meridian. As Nick shared, the existing designation is office, which includes professional office, technology, and resource centers. Our hope to move to the commercial will create a greater range of what we're allowed to put in those spaces, including retail, personal and professional services, office uses, as well as appropriate public and quasi-public uses. I think this slide is important. I did a search on commercial real estate marketing platforms, and you can see the slide on the left is a search in all of Meridian, Idaho for lease for office or co-working space. So every red flag you see there is an available current listing for office or co-working space. The slide to the right is the same search, obviously again in Meridian, for anything for lease for flex, and there is one current listing. That listing I don't think actually has been constructed yet. I think it's building B, and it looks beautiful. It looks like an amazing project. But if someone is searching for flex in Meridian, there is clearly some limited availability out there. Here's the zoning map. Again, you can see us right there in the middle with that LO designation. And then again, as I think this ties in well to the slide that we were just on, and it shows where the office is in comparison to our project. So there is office around us, and there is office that's available. So we don't believe that there's necessarily a shortage of office, which is why we like the idea of moving this to more of a commercial and flex opportunity. So the proposed change to the zoning designation will, again, as I mentioned, expand options for development. The limited office is for office centers and adaptive reuse of residential structures with limited hours of operation. The community business district, which is our hope, will allow us again to include self-storage facilities, flex space, retail, and more. So what Meridian needs, I don't pretend to stand up here and tell you as the commissioners what the city needs. But in my observation, what we could bring to Meridian that would satisfy some of the needs are, one, neighborhood retail. We know that Meridian is growing rapidly. And I think there's a demand for walkable, like I said, neighborhood retail. So what we've seen in the vacancy in commercial real estate is less than 1% for retail, which tells us it's booming. and there's an unmet need, we could create more retail and we could see that improve the community. And then also last mile logistics or flex. Again, we can go back to a couple of slides prior to this where there is no flex, there is no option for these small businesses. We'll talk about the storage units in a minute, but you can't use storage for some of these small business purposes. So there is a need for flex for someone who has a small business, wants a storefront, also needs a warehouse, and perhaps can't go and get an industrial space in addition to office. So that's what the flex would provide here. Expected users for the flex portion of this development. Here are a couple that I know we recently have gone into flex spaces, kitchen tune-up, interior design. This is a popular one where a storefront or a showroom would be beautiful to bring customers in. They see the furniture that's available, but behind that front presentation space is a warehouse where that business owner could then store the furniture that comes in and out before staging a space. Beard wax manufacturer, some of these very small manufacturing businesses, clean users, comic books and games, again, someplace with a beautiful storefront that invites people to come in, but a place in the back for not only an office, but for storage and warehousing. Wood floor installer, showroom, warehouse, and promotional products. So all of these small businesses would really benefit, and these are exactly those businesses that are looking currently for flex space. The conditional use permit requests for storage condos. The integration of these luxury, I think that's important to mention. These are luxury storage condos. These aren't your typical 90 square foot storage units that you've seen a lot here in Idaho. But it does fit the zoning intent. It benefits the community. We know it will be well managed and beautiful. The storage specifically will be owner occupied within this commercial development. It serves local businesses and hobbyists and contractors. So like I said, you can't run a business out of these storage units. However, those that just need storage, or perhaps someone who has boats or cars or specific hobbies, this would be a perfect solution for them if they don't have enough room in their homes. You understand. And it's architecturally integrated with the surrounding uses and the flex that we're bringing. Those will marry really nicely together, which we'll see in the renderings coming up. So why we think this conditional use fits in Meridian. It is low traffic, which we'll talk about. I understand the neighbors are concerned and we'll address that for sure. It's low impact and it will be quiet operations. It does support small business, local ownership and investment, and then it will be visually appealing. Nick shared this. This was the 2003 approved site plan. This is the 2025 proposed site plan. Nick showed another version of this. So the flex is to the west, the storage is to the east. So traffic, I imagine we'll have some others stand up and talk about this, and I'm happy to address what I know about it. So Nick shared that the 132 daily trips that was shared in the traffic study, 77 of those were attributed to the storage units. But I think what's really important to point out is that that rate assumes an average storage unit size, as I mentioned, of those small 90 square foot units. So if we put the 90 square foot units into the square footage we're proposing for this storage project, we would actually have 550 units. So what we're proposing is simply 41 larger luxury storage condos. So if we run the math off the number of units, then we actually get down to 6 trips per day. So I know sometimes it feels scary to have maybe storage, but if you really look at these numbers and imagine 41 individual owners, hopefully that eases a little concern about the traffic coming in and out. And it won't be the 550 units that are used for this initial calculation. Hopefully that makes sense. Parking, Nick did mention that we have met the standard. I think 49 spots were required. As it sits right now, there are 55 parking spaces, but this site plan does allow us to adjust. So we could reduce the drive aisle width. We can move that center parking island to the south. And then I've highlighted a couple of places where we could put additional parallel parking. Again, I understand the neighbor's concern. They don't want overflow into the residential. We don't want that either. So we could potentially put another 7 or 8 parking spots here, which only increases the delta between what's required and what we're able to provide here. So again, we've got the opportunity here to create more parking. Privacy and compatibility. Nick mentioned this as well. We did talk and go through an option. We would like to replace the existing 5-foot fence. We know it's 5 feet with a 10-foot fence, or excuse me, an 8-foot fence. Sorry, didn't mean to scare everybody. An 8-foot fence. So that would be the buffer between the residential and the commercial. I believe it would end on the east side where the pathway would connect. I don't have a specific slide on the pathway, but we did also incorporate the 10-foot path on the front of this project as is required. So we're excited about that. Here are the renderings. This is what we want the site to look like. So these two in particular are on the flex. The larger photo would be from within the parking lot. So this is looking into these spaces. You can see they're quite lovely. And then the picture on the bottom would be from McMillan. So again, it definitely has that retail feel. It's got those man doors that obviously welcome neighbors to come in. And then the slide here, this is the storage. So you can see that they marry again nicely with the flex. You're continuing with those colors and those materials. Both of these images are from McMillan. So this is what you would see if you were looking onto the project. So project summary, city benefits. Hopefully I've touched on most of the concerns that you commissioners may have as well as the neighbors, but we really believe that this project meets the growth needs for the city. We think it drives the local economy. It does support small businesses. It creates jobs. We think it's low impact and high function, and we're really excited about it. We hope you are too. I'll stand for questions.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, thank you. Are there any restrictions that you are intending on imposing on the actual storage unit uses? If I want to do construction or something, as you know, build things inside of my my unit, are there restrictions or noise mitigation for, say, if I want to run a drill for or saws or something for a significant period of time? I'm just curious about what your approach is for that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I probably would have to defer to Mary on this one. I know she can stand and speak to that. But yes, I think that there are clearly some restrictions to the uses that we put in there. I don't want to misspeak and say that I know for sure, but I'd love to allow Mary to come up and speak to that.
You want Mary to answer the question?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Brian.
Whoever. Dealer's choice.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Brian Burnett, 1125 West Two Rivers Lane, Eagle, Idaho. I'm a co-developer on this, but we just finished the high-end storage units Eagle Lux instead of Meridian Lux on Highway 16. And yes, we have covenants and restrictions, just like the ones in Eagle, and you're not allowed to run a business out of it, so you can store things in it. Most people are gonna honestly make them into man caves and hang out there. They're probably going to store their high-end cars and their high-end boats. And we do have covenants. I don't have a copy of them on me, but they do restrict people from operating businesses. And this is why we know there's a demand for flex, because we've had so many people come to us and say, we need to run our business out of there, and we really can't. So the covenants restrict business usage unless it's just a store. So if we get a pool guy and he wants to store supplies in there and come get them, that's fine. But he can't run a business. He can't have customers come in and be customer facing. And so it really limits the availability to do any, we don't allow production there. We had some food truck guys that wanted to go in there and vent them, and we had to stop that. So we kind of try to restrict any type of business activity that is, building things, especially that are noise. I think we use the city's noise ordinances in the covenants, so that for the neighbors and everything. So it's in the CCNRs. I don't have a copy of those, but we'd be happy to take input if there's certain businesses you don't want in there. But that's strictly why we have the flex next to it.
Thank you. Yeah, Madam Chair. My thought was, okay, I'm storing a boat in there and say I want to modify something on the boat or something like that. Are there any limitations, even as a hobbyist, or the noise I could generate with certain power tools or something? So
Yeah, there's, Commissioner, there's no restriction against power tools and doing things on your own personal things. We do have restrictions, I know, in the existing one, because a lot of car enthusiasts will start like a mechanic shop and start pulling in their buddies' cars. And so we have covenants against that, where people are operating on cars that aren't theirs, even if it's just as simple as changing oil. So definitely restrictive covenants. They're designed to be super high end, so.
thank you.
Just out of curiosity, without putting you into a corner, what do you expect the retail price for one of these storage condos would be? Just ballpark.
The ones, down on Highway 16. So those we have we have a lot of different sizes.
Right.
And we have a lot of different features. These will have water and sewer in them.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, they end up being a man cave. They can put a toilet in there. They can't put a shower or anything where you can live in it, make it a livable dwelling. Usually there's a car lift. They are about $180 a square foot. So anywhere, depending on size, from $68,000 up to $300,000 if you want to put two together and have 2,000 feet. So,
Okay.
so pretty big spectrum.
Right.
But they are priced, they're expensive. And so you usually don't get people who are breaking the rules and trying to run, small businesses out of them.
Right. Okay. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot?
I have 2 or 3 questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So curious if this is accessible by large trucks and how large those trucks might be. It seems like it's kind of a tight angle to get in there. And I would imagine people are going to have furniture delivered. Maybe you have a stager that wants to bring some pretty sizable vehicles in to make deliveries. Can you share about that, how that access will work?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, I'll take that on. It's restricted. The one that we have in Eagle, we have people who want to do storage units and just store furniture, and we don't let any semis in there. It's basically just box trucks. So, the smaller box trucks, almost like a U-Haul you would rent, pack your furniture in and leave. So it's restricted to that. I don't think the access inside of here, even to get into that flex space, will not allow larger trucks to get in there.
And so the same for the commercial condo users, then they're not going to be bringing in large delivery vehicles.
That's correct.
I want to chat about the entrance on McMillan. You didn't address this, but has ACHD, you're making a request to close off that access. Has ACHD limited that on a right in, right out? And can you share with us why you want to close that access off?
I would probably revert to Mary, the engineer, for that.
Come on up. We got plenty of room.
This is a team effort.
Absolutely. If you could just state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Mary Wall, 5636 North Portsmouth Avenue in Boise. I'm not clear on your question. You said closing off that access?
Yes, our staff report says that there's a request to close the access from McMillan.
No, not to close it, to
Move it.
allow it.
To allow it.
For you guys
Okay.
to allow it. ACHD.
I apologize.
Is,
They closed it.
is good with the access,
Uh-huh.
with the one access. They had us line it up with Palatine Way across the street. And based on their numbers and everything, it is not going to be a restricted access.
Okay. So has there been any consideration made of having Lolo Passway be just emergency access only? And have all other access come in from McMillan?
We haven't talked about that because they had asked for it to be a continuous road. Part of when we started working on the development and working with city staff, they wanted the continuation, the connection to the north as well as to McMillan Road. So we haven't talked about that. We did design it so that it was like people wouldn't be so inclined to go up into the neighborhood. So we did try to do that, try to discourage people from wanting to go through the neighborhood to get to anything in the commercial area,
Okay.
other than the neighbors maybe want to come down.
Thank you. Just one more question.
Okay.
Some of the testimony has addressed limited hours of delivery, limited hours of operation. Is that something that you would consider putting in the DA? I assume the commercial condo users probably close up by 8. So can you address that, please?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that, with restricted hours. I don't think anybody's gonna, or isn't any reason for anything. We're already restricting it for high uses and high traffic, like restaurants and things shouldn't be in there. It should be interior design studios, customer facing where 2 customers pull up, you show them their stuff, they leave, you show them the back end of the house where they have product. So I don't see a problem with that. I don't think that's a big deal.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Commissioner Stoll?
just to follow up on the issue of noise with the storage condos. So there's nothing that you have in place or proposing to have in place to limit somebody that's working on their car from working on their car at 1 a.m. At their location.
I think the entire project is limited, I think currently from is it 6 to 6? Or 6 to
11.
to 11 PM. And I think what Commissioner, oh boy,
Rowe?
Perot was saying that someone else wrote in and said they want to restrict those hours from 8 to 8. I think
But does that apply to
that's a request.
but that applies to the flex space? I'm talking about the storage units so that are privately owned. If somebody's a hobbyist and wanting to work on their car, is there any limitation on them
Hanging out till.
hanging out,
Yeah.
I mean,
music blasting, working on the car loudly?
Commissioners, I believe in the Highway 16 storage that we've built, there are hours of operation, and after those hours, you have to have your doors closed. Most of the time, if the doors closed, these doors are obviously highly insulated. These are all completely insulated units with fire barrier walls. So you can have water and sewer and all that, and the pipes don't freeze. So they are, I'm not going to say soundproof, but when you close the doors, you probably can't hear inside the units. So we would probably do that through the CC&Rs to restrict anything after 6 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night to be your doors closed if you're inside of your unit. That's probably how I would solve that.
You also said the CC&Rs comply with the city noise.
Correct. And then the CC&Rs do comply with the noise ordinances that you guys already have in the city. So if there is a problem and someone's using their storage unit too late, and there's a complaint, we'll obviously have to address that.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
So who's the primary enforcement entity? There sounds like there might be a staff person on site for the storage condos, but after hours, is there like an association?
Correct. There's a homeowners association
Okay.
that will control that section of it, the storage unit section, and there will be an active on-site person, of course, until they're all sold on the facility site, and a property management company that will, that helps us obviously sell them and then manages the homeowners association, and all the rules and regulations and landscaping and all that will be included in there. So it'll all be maintained by the HOA.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Brian Burnett.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
all right.
Daniel Fisher.
Good evening, Mr. Fisher. If you can state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
You bet, madam. It's Daniel Fisher and 2382 West Apgar Creek Drive in Meridian. So our street, Apgar Creek, abuts right to the north end of the project. I live very close to the corner of Apgar Creek Drive and the proposed through street Lolo Pass Road, which is a very quiet residential street right now, Apgar Creek Drive. I'd like to pose the question regarding the land around the Kelly Creek, our end of Kelly Creek subdivision. How many times the land, or how many acres of the land around our subdivision has followed the city's comprehensive use map? The answer is none. All of the land that abuts our street or on the east end, excuse me, the west end of our street, since it was developed, has the comprehensive plan map has been thrown out the window. The development agreements for Loxa Falls have been tossed every single time. What have we ended up with? We ended up with high density apartments at the end, which now draws traffic down Apgar Creek Drive, which wasn't going to be a problem. Well, guess what? The traffic is crazy. And getting out on Goddard Creek Drive onto McMillan, I've got to speak fast because I only have 3 minutes, is a nightmare. And you're going to put another street very close to Goddard Creek Drive, which is already very tenuous getting out onto McMillan with that two-way traffic. And you guys know how busy McMillan is. It is dangerous. It is absolutely dangerous. And to put a through street to Lolo Pass onto Apgar Creek Drive with truck traffic is absolutely insane. Now, it might not be semi-truck traffic, but do you know how big a box truck can be? Do you know how heavy a box truck can be? Pretty dang heavy and pretty dang dangerous. And they're going to feed out right onto our street, Apgar Creek Drive. And they're going to go left, right, extremely dangerous. In fact, I would say reckless to allow a through street from a business park with storage, with warehouses, with whatever you want to call them, man caves, with things going on at all hours, it's ridiculous. We need to stick with the plan. Stick with the plan, because light office, quiet light office. Oh, it might have a few more trips during the day, but it's not going to be people at all hours working on cars, working on whatever, and then truck traffic going right out onto Lolo Pass Road. It's just ridiculous. It's not safe. So I would ask you to please, Ms. Perot, you made some very good points regarding the safety and the viability of this. It's absolutely ridiculous. So stick with the plan.
Thank you very much.
Madam
Clerk?
Madam Chair, we have Penny Fisher.
Good evening. If you can state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
Sure. It's Penny Fisher, 2382 West Apgar Creek Drive, Meridian. As he stated before, my husband stated before, we live on the corner of Apgar and Goddard. There are 2 homes before you hit the proposed drive-through on Lolo Pass on both sides. So there are 4 homes and it's a corner. When we were first presented this as on site, they presented the entire area being luxury condos. With that entrance, they told us was going to be a drive-through, but it would be kind of like an emergency access to only those people with keys, or so very limited usage, and that the main entrance would be on McMillan. So that's how it was presented, the whole entire thing. So we were like, okay, since that time, they have now, as you can see, cut it in half, said now, we only want this. We're going to put flex spending, or flex commercial. They did not present it to us as commercial when we originally were spoken on it. So this, to me, I feel like is a bait and switch. Tell the landowners, the homeowners around this area to use it. We'll use condos, storage units. Since then, even on 10 Mile, if you go up 10 Mile, there is already another luxury condo being built within just around the corner. And so at this point, I don't think that this is the best use of land because of the fact that the commercial is there and it will bring the traffic directly into, again, it's directly surrounded by homes all around it. The west is Goddard Creek, which also is residential. We do have the commercial on both ends, like you guys do have on the committee. And as I've driven around Meridian, there is no real commercial in the middle of a residential area, I believe, and I could be wrong, but light office is what it's zoned for, and I believe that would be the best use, is keeping it as light office, especially as that's how it was presented originally and has changed since it was presented to us.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes,
are you telling me that at the neighborhood meeting that they just had, what, 2 weeks ago? They,
they didn't have it, it was not, it was,
a month ago, within the last,
it
short
went,
period
in
of
this,
time?
yeah, when the first homeowners, they presented, they were going to do the entire site condos.
Right,
There was no commercial in it. And the way they presented it is the traffic would come in from McMillan on an existing thoroughfare. Because right now, if you drive in there, there are some homes on that and some businesses that were there, but it's just open. So really there's no access to and from in there because
right,
it's a dirt. So they said they would put the main entrance onto McMillan.
right.
And then because we were worried, because there's homes. There's a home, a sidewalk, the street, sidewalk, and a home. And so we're like asking about that, and they did present it to us that would be closed off, and the only access to and from would be the people that owned the condos, that the main source would be on McMillan.
And this was your last neighborhood meeting, not your.
We've only had one.
Okay,
We've only had one, and that was how it was presented to
with
us.
this design.
This design was not, no. I do have a copy of the original design. I took a picture of it. That was how it was presented to us. After, I don't know how many weeks, there are other people that will have the exact dates. After, we got a letter in the mail saying that they were told that they had to change it and include the flex commercial.
Okay,
And so then they said, okay, the storage units are only going to be on this side, not the other.
right.
So when it was presented to us originally, it was only condos. There was no commercial whatsoever.
Okay. All right, just wanted to clarify.
Mhm.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mrs. Fisher before we ask her to sit down? All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next person signed up is Doug Pill.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Doug Pill. I live at 4520 West Brennan in Boise. A couple of notes. I think Nancy did, or Natalie did a wonderful job expressing the value proposition of the project for the community. Small business is needed. Meridian, as we've identified, is growing. Whenever I attend a Meridian City Chamber of Commerce meeting, it's all small business. Those are the folks that are thriving and growing in this community. Along with that, I just wanted to touch on the developer himself, Brian Burnett. I've done a number of projects with Brian throughout the Treasure Valley and here in the community. There's no better developer. When Brian tells you he's going to do something, he gets it done. He is the best developer neighbor that I've ever dealt with in this community and others. He listens. He goes above and beyond. The city needs a 4-foot berm with a 4-foot fence. Going to cost him more to put in an 8-foot fence, but at the end of the day, it's going to be aesthetically better. And so those are the types of things that he does for his projects and his neighbors. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next person signed up is Rod, is it Ludlow?
Thank you for coming tonight. If you can state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
I will. My name is Rodney Ludlow. I'm the homeowner of 2347 West Apgar Creek Drive. Our house is located on the corner lot of Apgar and the private drive Lolo Pass. So that Lolo Pass will pass right adjacent to our house. I understand that development is part of growing, and part of the development in Meridian is, which I agree with. It should grow. My understanding for community development is to have a soft transition from family homes to light commercial to commercial development. This new property abuts our house. The developer of the property called our neighborhood meeting on April 28th, 2025, and presented a preliminary improvement plan for the 5.51 acres. The plan was to develop luxury storage condos, including extending the private drive of Lolo Pass from the Kelly Creek neighborhood into this development and installing a security gate for limited access. At that time, all of the attending neighbors accepted this plan with a few minor comments and requests. Later, a letter was sent out on May 30th modifying the plan, and that was presented. The letter informed us that they wanted to modify the current zoning from LO to CC, which accepts a much broader range of commercial business, longer business hours, some up to 24 hours. This plan revision included extending Lolo Pass Drive through to McMillan. I am against the rezoning this property. My main concern is the new plan extends the private drive of Lolo Pass through the new development and connects to the main artery of McMillan Road. Point that I wanted to make sure that was understood, the new connection would create the 5th entrance into Kelly Creek subdivision, 4 of them connected to McMillan. If Lolo Pass were extended to McMillan Road, this connection is within 50 to 60 yards of the main subdivision entrance on Goddard Creek, which is divided and has a water feature. My request to this council is to table the rezoning until the development can provide more specific plan of Lolo Pass, its designation and is designated as an emergency secure access to the new property and not connected to McMillan Road direct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next person is Ryan Chip.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ryan Ship, 2358 West Apgar Creek Drive,
Okay.
Meridian, Idaho. Bill actually hit on a lot of the points I was gonna bring up. One of the reasons we moved into this neighborhood was the family friendly atmosphere it provided. We currently have, I'm on the corner of Lolo Pass and Apgar Creek, Lolo Pass being the proposed through. We currently have kids in the neighborhood, always outside playing. I have a 5-year-old here. I've raised 2 other kids in this house. I would just like to point out that Apgar Creek already has so many entrances to the main roads, and adding another one isn't going to change the traffic that's already, or I'm sorry, adding another one is only going to add traffic that's already there. That's all I had.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much for your testimony.
Madam Chair, the next person is Case Diorn. Sorry.
Hi.
Good evening. Yeah, my name's Case Dorn. I live at 2371 West Apgar Creek. So on the other corner of Apgar and Lolo. And yeah, sounds like I'm repeating other people, it's because I am. So yeah, basically plan A was light office. So that's great, right? Again, provides that soft transition from residential to commercial, low traffic on a McMillan and in our neighborhood. Again, April 28th, we had the neighborhood meeting. It was presented as all commercial condos. We talked about the access to Lolo. It was fire egress only, gated. We talked about entrance into McMillan, and it was suggested that it would have that very low traffic number that they proposed. But obviously you can see, right, this plan changed. They added the commercial flex space. They added the Lolo pass throughway, and based on the whatever approach they're using to the traffic study, there's a huge range between 6 to 44. I would agree their traffic is already a significant issue on Goddard Creek and McMillan. As you are on Apgar Creek, we already get traffic that's merging into our neighborhood to cut around the traffic. You know, again, just south of this neighborhood is a school, again, creates significant traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So what else? We talked about comments. So any neighborhood comments, I'm sure were, hey, let's keep it light office. Let's not go to commercial. I don't know who provided any comments regarding we want more or different commercial space in lieu of the commercial condos. Speaking for myself, if, you know, you could maybe convince me the condos were all right in the original plan, but in this plan with the mixed use commercial, I think it needs to be reconsidered significantly. What else? Public comment. So again, my comment would be to reject this plan, to do actual traffic study to understand this intersection of the traffic, both from the south side and Goddard Creek. In terms of the overall site plan, if you look at kind of where the retail is, where the commercial space is, there's plenty of it on all four corners of our development, on the other side of the other road over there. Sorry, not 10 Mile, but Linder. And then also, as we look at, you know, the map that they proposed, it was interesting that they portrayed it still as light office. So it wasn't shown as red. If you would zoom out more, show it all as red, you would see a lot of red because we have plenty of that. Let's see here. Yeah, so in their presentation, they were talking about why this was such a great development, and because it was going to be low traffic, low impact, quiet operations. As we've kind of been digging through this, obviously not quite true. So
Quick question before you leave. What school is near your community?
well, we've
Is
got
it
a lot of
Willow Creek?
schools. There's an elementary to the south of us in the next neighborhood over in Bridge Tower.
It's Hunter?
Sure.
Okay, so that's on McMillan. And is there one north of you
Yeah, there's Willow Creek in our neighborhood.
in your
there's
neighborhood?
Sawtooth, and there's Rocky.
Right, those are on Linder. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I have Tammy Hinderegger.
We try. Yeah.
I'm Tammy Hinderegger. I'm at 5015 North Lolo Passway. I think it's a beautiful project. There is need for business. This is a terrible location. If you're okay, if I use your presentation, would that be okay? So, previous, I don't know how to go backwards. maybe?
Try the arrows.
So she used the word that we are bookended. This is 10 Mile, so you've got a major road there, and you've got Linder, which is another major road. You're bookended completely by neighborhood. So we're talking about making a commercial environment. In this neighborhood, within 3 houses, we have 3 special needs children. We have multiple older population we've had people walking the neighborhood with dementia that we've had to help out. The numbers and the reality, boots on the ground, are never the same. I'm a veterinarian, I can tell you that from experience. So what is going to happen with an entry on and off, you see a lot of accidents on that road. And whether or not it says that McMillan can handle this traffic, as it is right now, it cannot. It takes me 3 to 5 minutes to get out of that neighborhood, and sometimes it is an extremely sketchy turn. We're talking about across the street directly from this, you're actually taking North Palatine Way directly into a commercial property, directly sharing the road that has immediate access to Hunter Elementary School. So that is another huge thing for school buses. They're running their timeframes way too long to be surrounded by by houses. I have seen it's a beautiful project. It's not, we've even looked into doing a project similar to this. This is not the location for it. This is going to have a extremely detrimental, despite good intentions, this is going to be extremely detrimental to our neighborhood and unsafe. We don't have, we've already had issues with changing zoning because of it creating a massive amount of traffic through our neighborhood. We have people standing out on the corner telling people to slow down. We have had multiple near misses with special needs children. And now we're asking for both flex and industrial traffic. These are huge condos. It's unreasonable to think that we are not going to have large trucks, trailers, boats pulling through the neighborhood. Maybe it's not at a high rate, but even one child being harmed by this is too many. And we're not talking about a soft transition into a commercial zone. We're talking about literally both of the neighbors that are directly next to that are going, and all of us, this is going to be the new thoroughfare and an exit from McMillan off when there are traffic backups. So we have those accidents, they come off into our neighborhood to try to avoid that traffic. So great project, terrible location. It just can't happen. Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have Eric Hinderrager.
Hello, I'm Eric. I'm also at 5015 North Lola Passway. We're just a few houses down from the proposed development. So we're reiterating a lot of what's been already been said, but I also am just in favor of keeping a more of a soft transition, keeping the LO zoning. I really want to address what the developer said about being bookended on both sides by commercial. It is a single family home on all four sides. So currently this is already an island. It's not commercial, but even light office is a somewhat commercialized zoning. So to go all the way to commercial, it'd be surrounded on four sides by single family homes. And the other thing that hasn't really come up is that self-storage is an industrial development. So they're asking for a conditional use permit on top of their commercial zoning, which would actually be an industrial use surrounded on all four sides by single family homes. So my concern, I know there's been comments brought up about this is not for business use. But my main concern is that it sounds like there is no limitation on people coming in, working on cars, doing their woodworking, playing loud music if they like. I realize there's CC&Rs, but those are more of a suggestion. I just think it's going to be unfairly enforced by the neighbors having to file complaints. The HOA isn't going to be monitoring at midnight. They're not going to be enforcing late into the evening. So it's going to be up to the neighbors to be trying to enforce the rules, which I think is unfair. Other issues, I know it's been brought up that this has lower traffic than standard storage, but it also has roof lines that are nearly twice as tall. So aesthetically, we're turning this into a high roof lined industrial aesthetic rather than the already proposed just lower use, earlier closing, and just more aesthetic LO use. And I guess as long as I have a minute, I would also just say that one of my biggest concerns is having access into the neighborhood. So even if this did push forward, if it could be with the condition that that's an emergency access, that would definitely be my vote as well.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, no one else has signed up.
Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to make any comments? No?
Madam Chair, one person is online, but they are not raising their hand.
All right. Anybody else in chambers that would like to make any comments? Would the applicant like to come forward? Oh, do you raise your hand? I'm sorry. Come on up. Sorry, turn my head too soon. Good evening. If you can state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Abernathy and I live at 2235 West Apgar Creek Drive. My house backs to the end where the storage units will be. I'm a nurse by I'm a nurse. So I see a lot of the things that go on and what developments do for families. It can be great. It can bring a lot of benefits, income for families and that type of stuff. But I also have two children that are disabled and they like to run out into the roads. I see people speeding down Apgar Creek all the time, and that is a huge concern. And to see an increase in traffic coming in because of a development of businesses would be very concerning for me with two children that are developmentally delayed. So I would just request that the city look at this and take into account all aspects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else in chambers would like to make a public comment? Would the applicant like to come forward and address
Madam
some of the
Chair.
concerns? Oh, I'm sorry. One more time. Hold on.
Line did raise their hand.
Oh. Start and stop. All right. A person online, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Sergey Martinovich, and it's 2311 West Apgar Creek Drive. Thanks a lot for taking my concern. I would like to mention that last year, as we speak, I agree with all the neighbors who had a chance to speak and give their concerns. Last year, we actually had an accident right on the Apgar Creek Drive because of the traffic and because of the rezoning previously. We had condos right next to our condo apartments next to our one single houses, and as a result of avoiding the traffic on Macmillan, lots of neighbors, lots of people trying to cut the traffic, and as a result, actually, we were as a
Our car got hit.
Our car got hit actually on the right on the street. So I also very concerned about the rezoning, and I think it's a very bad idea to have that rezoning. So I would advise to keep it as a LO zone, or if it's gonna be, this project will go into effect to have low pass drive as a only emergency exit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk? Anyone else?
Madam Chair, no.
All right, anybody else in chambers before we ask the applicant to come forward? I'm looking once and twice. All right, please come on up. Thank you.
Ryan Burnett, 1125 West Two Rivers Lane, Eagle, Idaho, 83616. Commissioners, public, I agree with all of these people who have come up here and testified. I did submit a plan that was complete storage units at the beginning. First, let me take this back. I just want to go through, oh wait, maybe I'm going the wrong way. I want to go through some facts. Nope. Where's the old plan? The original plan. The original plan of LO zoning with the light office, you'll see that they had a major access going into the residential. That access will be there no matter if it's commercial or not. I know one of the neighbors said that it would probably be great if we had a traffic impact study. The traffic impact study will show you, because we do have one that we've submitted with the file, that the traffic for storage and flex space is lower than any commercial designation. It is not an industrial designation. I'm building them on Highway 16 right now, which has 10 times the traffic of McMillan and only 2 lanes. McMillan has a center lane that you can pull out into. I have the landowner, Kelly Fulfer, here that developed the entire area and has lived there for 30 years. There's actively Superior Construction, a construction company, is on this site with massive semis and equipment until the last 3-4 months when we decided to do this project. So we're used to pulling in and out of here with massive semis. I agree with them. So my original plan was just storage condos. I only have one access off of Highway 16. They did not require me, because the traffic is so low, to improve Highway 16 and or have an alternate second access. So I have a fire access. So when I came to the neighbors, I assume that ACHD would be the same as ITD, and they would allow me to put the city would like the concept of this high-end storage condos, the lowest traffic impact that you can put on a piece of property, and that I could fire restrict the access going into the neighbors. So that was the original plan we submitted. Through working with Nick and the people that Nick said, neighbors that did not come to my neighborhood meeting, apparently there were several that were requesting commercial, that they thought the area should be commercial. Nick can speak to that. So he took on many phone calls and asked me if there was any way we would modify this project to create some jobs and create some commercial. I believe at the beginning, we even had a nursery that wanted to go in the front. So we modified this plan for the city. We called the city. The city said you do not need to put out a new neighborhood meeting because you're within the time frame. But we felt, to be good neighbors, we would send out what the city was suggesting that we do to our site plan, and the ACH, with working with them, said no matter what the traffic count is, they did not want fire access because we were moving from just storage units to have some flex place or commercial, which in the old designation or the original zoning, how it is right now, is going to require that access to go through anyways. So my original plan was what I presented to these neighbors. I'm, like Doug Pill said, a man of my word. That's what I wanted to happen to this property. That's what I think is the best use. I was only accommodating the neighbors that called in, the city's requirements and my requirements from the government agencies like ACHD. If we could go back to the original site plan, ACHD would let me fire access restrict the neighborhood and just build condos, and I could do a similar layout. I'd be more than fine to do that. So that is how we got here. But so those are the facts. Everything that they've said is true. But as I was going through the process, the government agencies, you know, that's what you do when you're a developer, is work to try to make neighborhoods happy, government agencies, police and fire, everybody. And so that's how it morphed into the plan that we have, with a little bit of input from everybody. And we
Okay.
tried to do the best plan that we could.
Right.
I'm fine with going back to the original storage condos like I have on Highway 16 with the absolute lowest impact and fire restricted access on the north. If the city will allow that, the fire department will allow that, and ACHD, I would be fine with that.
All right, so stay there. Nick, do you have any comments as far as why the plans have changed as you were in discussions with Brian?
Yes, Madam Chair. To address some of Brian's comments, for one, if this was all storage, we would be recommending denial tonight. I'll put that out there because the LO zone, as it currently sits, would create jobs and employment, which is why part of the plan was changed. I did receive calls from several neighbors, none of which are in attendance tonight, after the first neighborhood meeting that they had. Many of them were not happy with more storage. On top of that, our city council has not been in favor of more storage here in the city, as we already have quite a bit. Employment is somewhere that the city is lacking in the valley. We're the center of the valley. Employment is extremely important to the city. The comp plan calls this as limited office, which is why we worked with the developer to find a hybrid where we could have some employment as well as some of his storage. So that's where we ended up with the plan that we are at now. As far as with that, if it was all storage, staff would be recommending denial tonight because it provides zero employment. So if that answers your question.
Commissioners, do we have, oh, go ahead, Brian.
And I do believe this is the right product. There is I mean, just like Natalie mentioned, we will be building Flex and Star. There is a massive demand for Flex for small businesses that can't buy their own building, can't find anything to rent. They need an office front. They are not high traffic, high impact. They are the same as office. The storage on the right side of this is the lowest impact you could have. We do have a traffic study. It's not industrial. I think this is a phenomenal plan. Do I wish I could restrict the access going north into the subdivision? I do. I don't think we need it. I think the turnaround and the traffic going on to McMillan would be fine. There is 3 lanes with a center lane. So obviously that's a city and fire and ACH thing. I don't know if our traffic impact study can support that like it did for me on Highway 16. But if that's the biggest concern, I'm all for it.
In your packet, ACHD wrote a letter, and that I think probably satisfies their traffic impact study. They're not going to require one. They're not going to do one because they already know what the impact of the volume here is. So, but they are also requiring you, not requesting, requiring you to have pull through on Lolo Pass lane or road. So
Regardless of what the
and
development
so
is.
since 2003, when Kelly Creek subdivision came about, it was always said this road will be extended at a future time. So that's never been a question, regardless of how the neighborhood's grown around that.
That's correct. And I think the confusion is just the traffic. This is the lowest traffic impact. The storage units definitely, if you think about someone going, those storage units will probably be utilized on Saturday and Sunday. And so it is the lowest impact. It's lower than what it is originally zoned, and I think it will create less traffic and the safety of those kids. And I do not think people will use that access as much as McMillan. I will make that entrance beautiful and make it the main entrance. And, you know, we can even, you can kind of see on the drawing that we can kind of stub it into where that entrance looks a little bit more narrower. You put curbs in it and people refrain from using it. So there's certain things we can do, but I'm definitely willing to work with ACH and the neighbors, you know, to make it even signage that maybe we can restrict it that no trucks go back there. None of the box trucks are allowed to go through there. We can put signs up. I'm willing to work with them. Like I said, my original plan was the lowest impact on the neighbors.
Right. Well, and I mean, the fact that ACHD asked you to align with Palatine Way, you're not a straight shot. You have to kind of zigzag through your proposed site plan in order even to get to Lolo Pass. So it almost like it's a secret special, you have to know it's there.
Correct. You
in order to be
visually
able to
don't
do
just
that.
see through the project at the other exit. So, and it does look smaller. It is kind of hidden in the back corner. And, you know, like I said, I do think this is a great plan. We do great developments. You can go look at them, Highway 16. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to, you know, make this the best that I can. And I don't agree with the traffic because, well, one, I live on Eagle Road, so McMillan's great. And second, you know, Kelly Fulfer has lived there for 30 years. His family homesteaded this property. And we've been driving semi trucks in there for 30 years until 3 months ago.
Right. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Brian?
Madam Chair, I have a question. It could also be for staff, Nick, maybe even Caleb. I understand the requirement from ACHD. I guess I'm curious as to why ACHD wants that kind of through lane so close to Goddard. It feels like that's normally something that of the type that they would oppose this kind of setup from my experience. It doesn't quite why that was stubbed in the first place, because now it's stubbed, it's there, but.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Smith, it's a good question. So not only ACHD, but the city code, you know, requires stub streets, which is how we get connectivity over time throughout the city, because it has been piecemeal over a long time is where we've gotten today. So this stub street was stubbed here with the concept plan as shown previously for the office development. You know, at that time, correct, they actually show 2 accesses to McMillan, which nowadays definitely not, as the traffic on McMillan has increased. But having that second access point, it was stubbed. City code does ask for those to be extended, and it's actually not a public road. It will be a private commercial drive aisle. So it won't be actually, Lolo Pass won't be extending as a public street. It will be private. It will be a commercial drive aisle. So it actually won't be a public street as it goes through their site. And with that, Jared, you know, when they did this in 2003, you know, the exact placement of it, the offset requirements, those type of things, it does change with development over time. And since 2003, 22 years, you know, ACHD actually was the one that requested, at first, the city was against the access to Palatine. After some conversations with the developer and ACHD, aligning it south with the access south of McMillan on Palatine, and then connecting it to Lolo Pass. It still requires a city council waiver because our code asks for it to be restricted. Staff can't support that based off of the city code. However, that's where we ended up, and they're requesting city council waiver for that access to McMillan. So,
Brian?
I just have one more comment. I know that the only other question I didn't answer from a gentleman, and we did have it at the neighborhood meeting, is that, you know, we're building houses from 24 feet to 30 feet high. These are actually about 23 feet high. They're lower than houses. So just in case you're worried about your site picture, they're smaller than houses.
And then you have the canopy, tree canopy as well.
Correct.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Smith?
I have just one follow-up. I just for my, and I won't dig too deep on this because this is kind of venturing in the academic now, less relative. Was Goddard not there when this was originally stubbed, or was it there? Again, it's it's purely just to me the proximity of Goddard to kind of where this connection is just seems odd. But I can always also pick your ear outside of this application as well.
I'm sure Goddard was created when Kelly Creek went in 2003. Because that was a farm or a construction company or whatever he was doing there for the last 30 years, right? I mean, I'm just speculating. I don't know for sure, but
Yeah.
based on what's been happening on McMillan, to me, that street was probably created as an entryway because what did you say the family's name? Fisher? Wolfers were already managing that land forever.
Correct.
Yes, Nick, do you have any?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Smith. So yeah, as far as that, correct. Goddard Creek, as you can see on the original concept plan, it's actually outside of this part of Kelly Creek subdivision, but it was existing at the time. As far as the actual construction date of Goddard Creek, I would need to get back to you on the specific information on when it was constructed, but correct. All of the landscape buffers actually on the west side of Goddard Creek are part of the Kelly Creek neighborhood HOA's responsibility to maintain.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Pearl?
Thank you. I don't mean to keep pushing this topic, but in the years I've been doing this, we have allowed for emergency access only in numerous situations. So just trying to understand the difference. Is it because this is coming into a commercial area, not a residential area, that emergency access only would not be allowed? I mean, I can think of a ton of situations where that has been permitted. So I just want to understand that a little bit better.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Pro, if you don't mind me giving a little stab at that. I think some of and at the heart of some of the even revisions that have been talked about tonight from the original concept that the applicant brought to what you see today is we want to not only the jobs that Nick mentioned, but also just the neighborhood serving types of uses. If you don't have that connectivity to the neighborhood, what we don't want is people turning left out on McMillan to then turn left into this site when they live on Apgar Creek or somewhere really close. So that connectivity provides access. And so some of those neighborhood serving uses that I'm hoping for, if approved, go in here. So it's something that I can walk to get, again, that service that me or my family may need. So that's the concept anyways. We're in academia a little bit, but that's why it was put there and why we're still pushing for that is so you don't have to push more traffic onto McMillan. You can actually access them from the neighbors. Again, I'm hopeful that some of these folks in here will go and use the businesses that eventually, whether they're office uses or the proposed businesses tonight or whoever goes in there. But that's the concept and why emergency access doesn't really meet that requirement for having neighborhood connectivity. It's all part of, and if I may, just two more quick things. The office use here was actually a use exception back in 2003 that that original developer asked for that reason, to have these, again, the concept was neighborhood serving uses. And the other thing, and I'll continue to address the commission here, but also with one eye look towards the neighbors. Sounds like there's an existing issue out there on Apgar Creek Drive, and I can offer to help with some of that. Commissioner Smith is well aware of this. But I work, part of my job is to work with the Ada County Highway District. They have residential traffic calming that they can do some of that cut through volume speed analysis. So irregardless of what happens with this project, contact me, the Ada County Highway District. We can have them put some hoses out, look at the existing potential cut through and speeding issues there on Apgar and see what might happen with that. I don't want to get into all that now and, take over this meeting. But things like speed humps and things like that, but you would have to consent to that as a neighborhood. But they can at least start there with doing that, some of that evaluation. So thank you.
Commissioner Pearl?
Thank you. That answered my question. Thank you, Caleb.
Commissioner Stoll?
This is more for Caleb so anyway, the requirement to not have an emergency access onto Lolo Pathway, is that being requested by ACHD or Meridian staff?
Madam Chair, yeah, this might be better for Nick, Commissioner Stahl. I will speak again from the city's perspective. I just addressed that. I do not know what is an ACHD staff report. I'm sorry, I did not look at that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Stoll, it's a good question. So yes, I like Caleb, the city, correct. It was stubbed there. We do want it as a through street. However, it is your purview to, if you guys want to recommend it as a fire access only, you guys can. Ultimately, city council is going to be the decision maker on that, as you guys are recommending tonight on this. But ACHD did want it as a through street as well. So, the city, I talked with ACHD on it. They never even contemplated as a emergency access only because it was a local street. And there was potential that it could have been stubbed as a continuous local street down to McMillan. But with the proposed development continuing the local street onto that property, it was better served as a commercial drive aisle and not a local street all the way to McMillan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Brian before we close the public hearing? All right, thank you very much. All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for Meridian Lux. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
So I think the developers put a lot of thought into this and tried to look at things from every angle, which is always appreciated because we see a lot of developers who don't do that. So all in all, as a concept, I'm okay with the concept, but I would prefer to recommend to City Council definitely that there's limited hours of delivery and operation in the DA. Council can determine what that will be. Would definitely take the applicant up on additional parking spaces as much as they're capable of adding. Just not knowing who those end users are going to be on the commercial condos, I think that will be beneficial. I drive past the similar concept at the corner of Linder and U-Stick where there are about 1,000 square foot commercial condos there. I rarely see that parking lot full. So I am not anticipating it being crazy. So that's a very similar project to what you're going to see, real estate offices, chiropractor offices, things like that. I am not concerned, and this is rare for me to say, I am not concerned about the neighborhood being able to access these. In this particular case, I don't have a problem with asking the neighbors to drive around and get back out on McMillan to access these. There's a lot of times when, I'm a big fan of connectivity and always have been. So my preference is to recommend to council that emergency access only be implemented on Lolo Passway if, of course, ACHD is going to permit it. I mean, we don't have control over what they will limit the applicant on, so.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith.
I think I'm generally aligned with Commissioner Perot. I think the problems that I do have or the kind of questions I do have around this development aren't with the applicant at all. It's with the requirements from the city and ACHD. And that would exist with any development. And so I'm trying to be, if I can remove those variables, the development on its own in kind of a vacuum, if we can kind of put it there temporarily, it's a pretty good project. I think it's a really good project, actually. I'm not super concerned about the amount of traffic toward the commercial, or sorry, toward the condos. The commercial, I think that's really very highly varied, but I don't think with the restrictions that Nick put in place, the staff put in place, I'm not too concerned about that. I agree with maybe limiting the operating hours, with things like, I know board games and things were mentioned. I'm a bit of a nerd myself, and so I know board game places, sometimes you have a game night or something, so I think like 8 to 8 might be a little restrictive. I more just want to say that for if city council looks at the transcript or watches the video, that, there's probably a happy medium somewhere in there. So I don't want to be too restrictive, but I think, in my mind, 8 to 10 or something like that feels more appropriate. All in all, that's, again, we'll leave that to city council. As for Lolo Pass, I think listening to staff, and the applicant a little bit, I've been convinced to not want it necessarily fire restricted or emergency restricted. I would still support a motion that requested that. I think with the applicant's intention to try to limit the desirability of that direction and staff's point about connectivity, I don't love that it was, in case it wasn't obvious, I don't love that it was stubbed in the first place necessarily there. Again, I don't know what I would do if I could wave a magic wand. But I think this is kind of making the best of a kind of odd layout. And I agree with Caleb. I have it on my notes, really highlighted ACHD traffic study, traffic calming. I think there are other issues maybe happening on AppGuard that can be resolved through working with ACHD, City Transportation Commission, et cetera. So I'm generally supportive of this. The only area where I'm a little bit, I'd like maybe some more conversation if any of the other commissioners give their feedback of whether or not we want to emergency access restrict that Lolo Pass Drive.
Okay, Commissioner Stoll?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I like the project overall as far as the concept. I've driven by that area for 22 years, wondering what was going to happen with that location, especially as development continued on. Now it seems to be have that answer. So overall, I like the design. I think it's needed and appropriate. I understand staff's point on connectivity, especially given my past life, and I'm very supportive of that concept, except in this situation. Given that things have changed as far as the type of land use or the use that's going to be is being proposed, I am only in favor of restricting it to emergency access on Lolo. So for my vote, that's gonna be a requirement. I also would encourage staff not to wait for the neighborhood to request your request of ACHD to do their studies. Let's just get it done and look at it. I've heard enough testimony that there's problems there. So that's my thoughts.
Okay. Commissioner Garrett, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm generally, I like the concept. I'm not as concerned about the fire exit or the regular exit. The uses are very limited in daytime uses. And as being the owner of a storage condo, I see it once a month. So I just don't see those types of things being a heavy impact on the neighborhood. As far as the other uses on the flex space, I can't speak to that. I just have to go with what the industry's studies are. But I think that from the concept, I don't have any problems with it at all. I know that I drive on McMillan on a regular basis, and I know the traffic. Hell, where isn't traffic bad in Meridian now? It's a fact of life. And but we all know that we don't want freeways everywhere either. So, I mean, we just have to live with it and do the best we can.
As far as my thoughts are concerned, as Brian said, the lowest impact of commercial use you can have are these storage condos. And when you go to city council, because of their aversion to storage in general, you might want to come up with some different words. They're luxury suites that are different than going to store it, right? You're not having people put their stuff in. If somebody's spending $350,000 on a storage unit, they're not putting their grandma's furniture in there for, a couple of months. So it's a little bit different concept. Thank you for creating landscape and buffers between APGAR and the facility. I like the fact that Palatine Way is not a straight shot. I disagree with my fellow commissioners. I do think it should be open access because I don't like taking left turns. So in order for me, if I'm in Kelly Creek, I would have to come out to Goddard, then come out to McMillan and take a left if I was going to use any of this flex space or be a fancy person and get one of these storage unit or condos, suites. Or I'd have to go all the way to Linder and come around. This gives the opportunity for the people within not only your street, but your entire community to be able to use these services. It might be a dentist, it might be an orthodontist, it might be Edward Jones, it might be a cabinet builder or an interior designer. It's not going to be in and out. It's not going to be a drive-through. It's not, if it's, maybe we can keep it open for 10 o'clock so that Commissioner Smith can play Dungeons and Dragons all night. So, you have to be careful what you wish for, because if another concept comes in here that might create more volume, then the conversation we're having tonight gets even greater. This developer so far is willing to do what it takes to make sure that your neighborhood is safe, that your neighborhood is aesthetically appealing, that it's going to limit their accessibility to it, but also be able to have you use the services that are provided as well. There's the frontal facings of storage units have gotten much more sophisticated. I was driving down U-Stick today. I think there was one that had like a nice kind of gray wall with beautiful trees in front of it. And you wouldn't even know if it was there if the words weren't on the side of the road. So we're going to make a motion tonight, and this will go to City Council. So you will have a chance to voice your concerns again. So this is not the final step of all of these things. And in between that time, the developer will work with the city to be able to come up with a plan. And all of that information is public on our website, so you can be able to see those changes as they go through the process. So does anybody have a motion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
For statements regarding the fencing, my preference would be a 4-foot berm with a 4-foot fence rather than an 8-foot fence. I just think there's also some security that adds. It does give, in my opinion, a better look to the, there's the 25-foot landscape there, but it just makes it look a little bit, nicer. It's not a hill I'm going to die on, but that would be my preference and recommendation. And I do agree with you about City Council's aversion to storage condos. There are 5 storage unit facilities within 1.5 miles of this location.
Right.
So it's very concentrated there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I don't think developers would build them if there wasn't a need for them either. So our community continues to grow and we all have too much stuff. So I guess we need storage. So would anybody like to make a motion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of file number H2025-0035 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of October 16th, 2025, with the following modifications and recommendations. To consider limiting the hours of operation or delivery within the DA at City Council's determination, to require the applicant to add additional parking where possible, and to discuss the possibility of closing off the Lolo Passway entrance on the north side and create an emergency access only entrance, and then recommend that there be a 4-foot berm with a 4-foot fence on that residential boundary.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve file number H2025-0035 to City Council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for all coming tonight. I encourage your president of your HOA to get a hold of the city of Meridian to talk about mitigation for traffic along Apgar Way or Creek so that your neighborhood can continue to be safe. Thank you. All right, we have one more item on the agenda tonight, which is H 2025-0045. It's a comprehensive plan text amendment from the City Planning Division. And as soon as Carl is ready, we will begin.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
Members of the commission, my name is Carl Anderson. I'm a long-range associate planner here at the City of Meridian. Tonight before you, I'm presenting a city-initiated text amendment to the city's comprehensive plan. And I'll briefly cover the 4 items that are contained within this request. So the first item before you is an adoption. The city is recommending to adopt Ada County's capital improvement plan and development impact fee studies from 2024 for EMS and jail services. The city has been working with Ada County as they're going through their process to conduct their capital improvement plan development impact fee studies. This is an item that was presented before City Council on June 17th by city staff, outlining what that process would look like. This is essentially that step 2B that's outlined in the memo that's attached to your staff report with an attachment B1. So this is the public hearing that would be required to adopt these capital impact fees and development impact fees into the City of Meridian's comprehensive plan so that the city may collect development impact fees on behalf of Ada County for these services as identified. Idaho code requires that if we're going to be collecting impact fees, that these documents be included within the comprehensive plan. I'll back up really quick. So this table here does show what some of those impact fees would be. This would not be the final step in the city's process to collect those impact fees. An ordinance would need to be adopted and by the city. And once that step's complete, then the authorizing authority would be there to collect those impact fees. The second item here is to adopt by reference the City of Meridian's development impact fees and amended capital improvement plan. Similarly, under Idaho State Code for entities that conduct comprehensive planning under Idaho State Code, they need to incorporate these documents within the city's comprehensive plan in order to collect development impact fees. Should this item and the previous item just discussed be recommended for approval, they would be included in the city's list of adopted plans or incorporated plans and studies by the City of Meridian within the table, which I'll cover here next. So the third item that the city is recommending amendment to, some of this is cleanup. Some of these are items that were presented to the commission earlier this year when we were amending the city's area of city impact. And I'll go over those. Some new ones are, the first here is to amend the title from adopted to incorporated. It's a little bit of semantics, but this is in essence not for those plans or studies that may not be necessarily adopted, but are referenced herein and are incorporated and necessary for the city's planning efforts, but still included. On the city side, we are looking at potentially updating some city's websites to track those resolution numbers for when those items are adopted and tracking them in that manner. Additionally, we're recommending adding a note to city-led planning efforts to ensure most recent version planner study is what has been included in the city's comprehensive plan so that we're not necessarily having to conduct a comprehensive plan text amendment for every single one of those items once a new plan is amended. That note is added to those city-led documents, and so it's referring to the most recent version as adopted, which would be by resolution. And so the way that would work is that as we're doing now, when we have kind of a list of them, we bring them all forward to clean that up in the future. Additionally, so this is similar to what we talked about earlier this year, but update the reference to the most current plans or studies within that table. So we're referring to the most recent plans. There are several items that are underlined and strike through in your attachments showing what the most current version of those items are. We're adding 4 new ones for you. first one here being wastewater resource recovery facility, City of Meridian planning document here, led by the Public Works Department from 2018. Again, City of Meridian's development impact fee study would be included, as well as Ada County EMS and jail capital improvement plans and development impact fee studies. Future additions that the commission may see are the addition and update to the Eastern Treasure Valley Electric Plan. The plan still makes reference to the prior version. There is a more recent version. Part of the reason that this has not been recommended to be brought forward at this time is this is something that the staff's understanding is that council has not yet had their eyes on. And staff's recommendation that once the council has had an opportunity to review those changes, then it be brought forward before being brought into the plan. Similarly, Meridian City Council is working with Meridian Development Corporation, MDC, on the update to their development destination downtown plan. It's possible that when that effort is complete, that we would then come back and update the plan as well. But the version that we're still referencing is the prior version of the destination downtown plan. Also, you'll notice that one of those is being deleted. There were duplicates of this item. So we're deleting the duplicate. And finally, again, some housekeeping here, but amending the glossary as attached to the comprehensive plan. The first item here is adding a clarification to the capital improvement program. So the capital improvement program, the language program, I do believe is somewhat vestigial. Prior efforts towards capital improvement planning referred to this as program, and I believe this is a carry forward from prior comprehensive plans. You'll notice in the staff report that while it was not noticed this way, the commission may wish to amend the language program to plan to be consistent with both state code and the language that we're proposing here today as well. That would need, if the commission is desirous of doing so, you would need to include that within your motion. But the text that's being added is the City of Meridian refers to capital improvement plan as the comprehensive financial plan. That's a practice that is reflected in the in the attachment for the city's development impact fees and amended capital impact fees. And finally, we are adding a reference for impact fees. This was pulled from the city's development impact fee study to be consistent with those planning documents and also to provide a reference for what impact fees are and what they do. All noticing requirements for tonight's application have been met. Staff has not received any public comment, either written or phone call. And the agency comments that have been received were from Public Works Department, and they're not opposed to this request. That I'm happy to stand for questions that the commission may have. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed comprehensive plan text amendment. And
Commissioners, do we have any questions or comments for Carl?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot?
could you go back to the last slide? And am I reading correctly? Oh, sorry, the next one. Am I reading correctly that the CFP is the vehicle being used to identify the capital improvement program? Essentially, CFP is the vehicle that's being used, right? To make those determinations. I mean, I understand what the CFP is, but am I understanding this correctly that there isn't another document called the capital improvement program, and that it would just be the CFP that would be linked to this? And how does that work? Because the CFP is constantly changing. So is it being adopted? I mean, typically we don't adopt the CFP as an actual financial tool at budget time. So how's that going to work?
yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner Perot. So this staff's understanding and my institutional knowledge is somewhat limited, but when reviewing the document that was adopted by ordinance for the development impact fee study and capital improvement plan amendments for the city, it does make reference to the practice that the City of Meridian does operate under, which is our capital financial plan. It also serves as the capital improvement plan. I don't know, and this is where Caleb Hood may jump in here as well to provide some clarification. But the document that would be adopted within the comprehensive plan is the attachment, not the necessarily regularly, as you mentioned, amended CFP.
So Madam Chair, Commissioner Perot, man, I got a Commissioner Perot. I'd almost put it the other way. It's just hard. It's just, I said it, just, it was tough. I'd almost state it the other way. So our CFP has more than the CIP for the impact fees, right? But we put the CIP in our CFP, but it has things that change on a yearly basis based on department needs and whatnot. So the CFP is larger than the CIP. The CIP though is incorporated as part of the CFP is how I would phrase that, I guess.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
I apologize if this is, my blood sugar's low or something. But the terminology capital improvement program to plan, could you just kind of clarify? Has it been improvement program and you were asking if we want to change that to plan to conform with the other language?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner Smith. So in order to be consistent with all the other terminology, because there are several running around, writing it again, we would have changed program to plan. We missed it and it was not noticed that way. We would recommend changing it program to plan in order to be consistent with the practice and also a state code. Program, I do believe, is from prior practice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
Is there, is this done at regular intervals? Is there planned intervals at which these are that we're updating the CFP or the comp plan and adding these? Is it because we're at like, 2025 and we did it 5 years ago and we have 5 more years? Is that kind of the timing of this? Because there's obviously some documents that have a couple years age. So I'm just curious the timing.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Perot, no, there isn't a true timing is just sort of as needed. In fact, Carl's working on the next one now, so you'll probably see something here in the next year sometime anyways. The county's requests kind of, some of these are a little more administrative kind of cleanup things that probably wouldn't have risen to the level of a separate standalone application, but it's like, well, while we're at it, let's just go ahead and sort of add these other Scrivener type of cleanup things to the comprehensive plan. We do look at and have a program though internally to, with all departments to send the applicable policies in the comprehensive plan annually. Here are the policies in the comp plan. Is this still what you're doing, what we should be doing? Do we need to look at updating any of them? So there is a calendar to this, but we don't have a set schedule of when we do comp plan text amendments.
All right, to move forward, Carl, you are the applicant in this particular scenario, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct.
So we are in public testimony. Madam Clerk, is there anybody else that are in chambers that wish to testify?
Thank you, Madam
Or
Chair.
on Zoom?
No one has signed up.
Okay, so were there any follow-up thoughts that you wanted to provide before we close the public hearing?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
All right, may I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the hearing for the comprehensive plan text amendment.
Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt. I don't know that they want to say anything, but
I looked at them and they didn't.
they would nod it. They, okay, shook their head. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
You guys are good? Okay, it's been moved and second to close the public hearing for the comprehensive plan text amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think this is an administrative tool to be able to comply with things as they change in our city and impact fees and programs and plans and to keep the language all together. You said this is the first step. It goes to city council after this to go forward. I don't see any challenges in here that were obvious that would make me not want to approve this amendment.
I concur.
So with that, Did you want to say anything?
You're beating me to it. You're good.
Okay, so after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend file number H 2025-0045 as presented during the hearing of October 16th with no changes.
Second.
It's been moved and second to,
Madam Chair, I think there was the request change program to plan for language conformity.
it was wasn't it in the,
That, sorry, I don't know if we're out of motion. I just wanted to make sure sorry, maybe I'm messing up.
it was in the report, wasn't it?
I believe it wasn't, but we were asked to because it wasn't noticed is my,
Okay. Considering all staff, applicant, public testimony, I move to recommend file number H 2025-0045 as presented during the hearing of October 16th with the request to change program to plan to conform to other documents published.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the text amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll take one more motion.
Move to adjourn.
second.
It's been moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.